Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily news television show broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels.
Analytics company vidIQ has certified the Queer News Tonight YouTube channel as the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news show. Our queer stories have reached over 10 million views.
We are proud that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida.
We thank you for watching and supporting our voices in our rainbow family.
There is no other news program in the LGBTQ world like Queer News Tonight.
It is Monday, June 9th, 2025. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we'll tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ evening news show.
Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model as PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ community.
Our nonprofit mission is to support the 11 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our very diverse community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
In 2025, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ experience, and Queer News Tonight is celebrating our 5th anniversary with more than 10,000 LGBTQ television stories. We present Pride Fest in August, and we declare that love is in the air with Pride Fort Lauderdale on Valentine's Day, February 14th. We present Pride Fest in August and Pride Fort Lauderdale in February. Our magazine, events, television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ and broader community.
In 2025, more than 100 community leader anchors will sit at this table and share their voice as our anchors at Queer News Tonight. Tonight, we host this show to support our diverse family. Let's meet today's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome back to the table anchor Dr. Kal Gajraj. Dr. Kal Gajraj is the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at CAN Community Health. Dr. Gajraj is also a senior advisor at the U.S. Institute of Diplomacy and Human Rights. He's a professor at Miami-Dade College School of Global Business and on the Communications Council and contributor at Forbes and my best friend. Anything else? He does a lot more things too. Anyway, so Kal, Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival will be hosted by FayWhat, Eric Restivo, and Bonnie Builder on June 14th. Tell me what's happening out.
Thanks, Faye. The 2025 Stonewall Pride Parade and Street Festival will light up Wilton Manors on the evening of Saturday, June 14th, hosted by FayWhat, Eric Restivo, and Bonnie Builder. This vibrant celebration will honor LGBTQ plus pride, resilience, and community. More than 50,000 plus are expected to participate in this colorful parade, enjoying live entertainment and a festive atmosphere. General admission tickets are just $10. VIP is just $125, and VIP Private Club is just $250. The parade broadcast will start at 7:30 p.m. and will be live on all Queer News Tonight streaming platforms. Full details are available at stonewallpride.lgbt. So I'm really excited about this event because not only it's the biggest Pride event in this part of the country, but Faye is going to be hosting it along with, Eric and Bonnie Builder, which is exciting. And CAN is actually part of the event also because we are the presenting sponsor for the Black Excellence Stage.
Thank you very much, CAN.
So as part of our community health initiative, we're really excited to be a part of Stonewall and the Pride Parade and the festival.
I'm excited. I can't wait. Like Stonewall is like, guys, I try to go to as many prides as possible, right? But Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival is after my heart. I mean, because I get to announce it, and there's something electrifying about the energy that we all bring to that pride every year, 40,000, 50,000 people, it'll rain, we still show up, we're all in our pride gab and we're having a great time. It doesn't matter if it's 100 degrees outside, we're outside having a fabulous time. And speaking of the temperature, One, no rain this weekend. It's going to be beautiful,
Oh,
right?
awesome. Thank
Two, it's going to be about 90 degrees, right? Which is why at Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival, we love everybody who comes out to the parade. That's why we have the parade when?
At
Night.
night.
Nice.
And when the lights can be so pretty and bright and twinkling, it's great.
Bring
Yeah.
your glow up gear because it's time to, just let your light shine. We need to have Wilton Manors just radiate in the skies at night.
Oh
That
my
would be
God.
awesome.
Yeah.
Right? And that stage is going to be incredible with
Right.
Pan behind it. The Black Excellence stage.
Yeah,
Like, they're
we can't
always
wait.
bringing it, but this year is going to be even more so, right?
Yeah, it's pretty special. So there's a lot of entertainment that's planned. We're actually doing a Spirit Airlines raffle for those who come by, interact with the booth, and get tested. So we're doing free HIV testing. So yeah, stop by our booth at Stonewall Pride.
I love that. Edward, are you going to be on a float or something?
Oh,
Or
the
what are
Gay
you gonna be
Men's
doing?
Force of South Florida has their own double-decker bus.
Wow.
So we're going
Air
to be
conditioned?
Well, I guess the bottom will be because the top's going to be open. So yeah, we'll.
Isn't that always the way?
Yeah.
Tops and bottoms. Tops and bottoms.
What can I say?
Well, Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you all at the Stonewall Pride Parade on June 14th. And that is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Yes, we've got all kinds of family at the table today. Let's welcome back anchor Dale Stein, a celebrated photographer in the LGBTQ plus community. He's a director of music ministry at the famous Unity on the Bay and a moderator of Miami Gay List. So Dale, Stonewall Inn comes to the Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival as Grand Marshals this year. GFLGLCC hosts business event on Thursday, June 12th. Tell me what's happening out.
Well, on Thursday, June 12th, GFLGLCC will host From Protest to Progress, Business Empowerment in Stonewall, a fireside chat featuring Stacey Lentz and Kurt Kelly, who are co-owners of the iconic Stonewall Inn, New York City, and 2025 Grand Marshals of Wilton Manors Stonewall Pride. Taking place from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Greater Fort Lauderdale Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce offices and Visitor Center, this free event will spotlight how LGBTQ leaders are driving inclusive innovation beyond performative policies. The evening will include refreshments from Jen's Tea and Spice Shop. Attendees can expect inspiration, insight, and community. Stacey is the only lesbian leader associated with the historic Stonewall Inn, the site of the modern LGBTQ world civil rights movement in New York, on June 28, 1969. The Stonewall Inn sits on the square of the only National Park Service LGBTQ national monument. Stonewall Inn at Stonewall Pride is a very special experience in this year of great challenge for the queer community. Come see the owners of Stonewall Inn as Grand Marshals at Saturday Hotspots Happening Out Stonewall Pride Parade. Full details available at gogayfortlauderdale.com. Well, I think that is just so awesome that they are the Grand Marshals this year. I mean, it's just such a, I mean, has it happened before? I don't know. I don't think it has, right?
No.
So, I mean, how wonderful to bring New York really to Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
To the beginnings where, all the rock throwing began and all the uprising began.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, right, we've all been told the stories about what happened back at the Stonewall Inn in New York in 1969, right? And that we all celebrate our prides because of those bricks or shot glasses, depending on who
Right.
you ask,
Right.
right, being thrown. And like to have
But
that
the
name.
trans and the drag and
Yeah.
all the...
None of this movement would have never started. Okay. Again, like most things, right? Led by black and brown women.
Yeah, of course.
Right. Black and brown trans women were the leaders of this whole thing. And they are even still today. Right. So, it's just incredible to mesh those two things together.
Yeah.
Right. And, I remember during COVID, right, sitting at this table doing a story about Stonewall Inn maybe having to close down.
Yeah, for real, yeah.
And I just remember how that was just like, oh my God, it was heartbreaking because that's our history. Like whenever
Right.
we're fighting, that's what we go to. That's our LGBTQ history.
Right.
So to have those two things tie in and have Stacey be a lesbian, I
Right.
mean, it's even cooler like this. And so like to have the GFLGCC have this little table talk kind of moment where you'll be able to ask questions like, how did you keep it together? How do you feel being the trailblazer entity of all of us? I mean, the questions ask themselves. I
And,
can't wait.
And when I lived in New York for many, many years, and when you go to the Stonewall, just being on that block,
Yep.
I always felt that sense of history of like, wow. You feel like you take a moment to just breathe it in. I didn't always do that.
Yeah.
But you really feel the power of that location.
Oh, it's so true because, I grew up also New York Bay as well. And, we I think I took it for granted because, you know, it was there every Pride, it was there every year, and you just kind of went in with friends. Oh, it's like a tourism thing, you know,
Right,
you
right.
were there. But, you know, moving here to South Florida 14 years ago and then going back for the 50th anniversary, I think it was so wonderful just to walk in and be like, wow, this is like, it's populated so well over the years that people just flock to it, you know, and it's so wonderful to have them come to South Florida and just learn a little bit about the history, you know, just the progression in the last 55 years that it's been running.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure it's gone through many things, and then you hear about memorials that are being given there and stuff. So it's really great information.
Well,
Yeah.
Vaughn and I actually were in New York not too long ago.
Right.
And Vaughn, you actually had the opportunity to go
Yeah.
to Stonewall.
I did.
What was that like?
It was very interesting because I never had been there before. So when I went there, I had to touch the bricks
Yeah.
because, you know, they hold the memory.
Part of history.
It's part of history, you know. And then to go in that room and went to both floors, upstairs and downstairs, and then they had shows going on. But what I enjoyed was to see the youth. That was, you know, they were there,
Yeah.
and it was like enjoying themselves.
Well, the Stonewall Inn to folks in New York is like their manor.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
It's not like
Yes.
for us, it's this historical place, you
Right.
know, but for them, it's their Saturday night spot that they go to, you know,
Right.
before going to Pieces and taking a picture in front of Gay Street. It's what they do.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
Like we
know,
did.
like, you know,
We did the
like,
same thing,
so those
yes.
queer young kids down here
Yeah.
need to get that story.
And
you
they
know,
don't.
need to go to this
Yeah.
thing with GFLGCC, you know, because
Yeah.
they're the ones that need to know, you know, why do I go to Stonewall Pride every year? To be cute. No, you go to Stonewall Pride every year because of this.
And to get the
Because of a
connection.
protest.
You know, because
Pride
of
is-
protest.
Pride is a
Yeah,
protest.
You
You
know?
know, it's connecting Stonewall with our Stonewall.
100%.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah, I know that we had, I know like International Men of Leather, IML, they do fireside chats, which is very interesting because they talk about the history, you know, the leather community. And I've always found when people do fireside chat, it's an intimate discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's lesson, it's history. It's, you know, and like you said, we've talked about this, is like a lot of people here don't understand the history with that
Yeah.
and what it truly represents. And if we don't talk about it, it's going to die.
Yes, 100%. And big shout out going out to Jason Nunez, who is the chair of,
Yes.
of the GFLGCC. And what he has done in the short period of time that he is chair, president, I don't want to mess up your title, you know, but you're the big dude up there. All right. And, you know, his mesh with different organizations trying to bring people in, you know, Jen's Tea Shop is an incredible little place right there next to the well, right, that I adore, owned by a lesbian, you know, trying to get in to the Wilton, you know, scene and trying to get the boys to go over and have tea. And he sees that. So he's like, okay, let's incorporate this place into this. I love what he's trying to do. So thank you very much, Jason, for all you do. And Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you all at the Stonewall Inn at Stonewall Pride GFLGCC business event on Thursday, June 12th. And that is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome back to the table to the man with the best glasses in the business. He is anchor
wow.
Edward Otto Zielke, an accomplished brand influencer and marketing leader with a dynamic background in financial services and travel marketing. Edward currently serves as the director of marketing and sponsorship for the world famous Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida.
Love it.
He also serves on the Gala Chorus's communications committee. Edward, Dazzling Divas is almost here and it's going to take place at the Parker stage on June 21st. Tell me what's happening.
That's right. Get ready, South Florida. You're going to light up with sparkle on Saturday, June 21st, when Dazzling Divas lights up the Parker at 8 p.m. Presented by the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida, the glam-filled concert will serve powerhouse vocals, show-stopping drama, and fierce diva energy. Fans can grab their tickets now at Ticketmaster or gmcsf.org. During the event, one lucky winner will be announced for the luxury Peru raffle, a $30,000 dream vacation to Machu Picchu and beyond. Raffle tickets just start at $40 and can be purchased in advance. You don't have to be present to win, but why miss the show? Because we are going to be celebrating artists like Beyonce,
Love it.
Mariah Carey, Kelly Clarkson, Celine Dion, Aretha Franklin, you know, Cyndi Lauper. We got them all. So it's just going to be fantastic. We're so excited about it. We premiered a couple of songs over the weekend for a mini concert that we did. We did Pink Pony Club, and so the audience really got into it. So yeah, fantastic. Another great diva coming up. So yeah, awesome. So
You know, as all the gay men at the table, including myself, we all love our dazzling divas.
Of
You know what
course,
I mean?
yeah.
Like this is the soundtrack to our world
Right.
when you really think about it. When you
Yeah.
type into your Spotify gay anthems, all those women that you mentioned come up, you know?
Yes.
And for us to be able to
Right.
see it at the Parker, sang beautifully by, you know, your men, women, theys, and thems, it doesn't
Yes.
get no better.
Right.
It's really is amazing, you know, and we're only about 11 days away, and there's so much excitement from the members. You know, this is something that they've looked forward to, and they're already talking about, you know, maybe doing another Dazzling Divas too, because, you know, we couldn't celebrate every diva that we thought of. You know, we had
There's so
we had to
many,
bump
yeah.
a few, but you know, yeah, you know, it's
Who'd
just
you bump? Who'd
yeah,
you bump?
Oh,
Yeah.
I am not saying one word who we bumped.
like, I
because
am not
I
getting
don't
in
want
trouble
that
for
on film.
It's so exciting because like I have my tickets already, so I'm really excited about this. And hearing you name off all of the artists, Faye and I was recently on a Virgin Voyage cruise, so shout out to Virgin Voyages, and that sounded like our karaoke playlist.
Yeah.
Faye was there programming all of the karaoke songs, and we just did a night of all divas, and it was a lot of fun.
And it was
so-
about all those people that
Yeah.
you mentioned. So
And the chorus, you know, we are your iTunes playlist
Yes.
here,
Yeah.
you know, and we're singing the anthems that inspire LGBTQ plus, especially during Pride. So yeah, we're definitely gonna, you know, knock it out of the park with this.
final question for you.
Yeah.
Do people actually come up to you after a show like this and say, you didn't play this person?
You know what? We do a concert survey after maybe like a day or two, just to hear back some of the feedback. So it'll be really interesting to see, like, you know, if somebody says like, "Oh, you didn't mention this person or that person."
Where was Liza Minnelli?
Yeah,
or
well,
whatever.
maybe she's there. I'm not going to say if she isn't, but
or whatever.
You got to come to the show to find out.
yes,
Yeah.
there's about 18 of them, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have
Wow.
do you have guest singer? I mean, do you have like some guest actual divas?
We have a
Is that
guest
the pro-
conductor, actually the former artistic director of the chorus, Harold Dianquano, is
Oh,
going to
he's
also
a
be
sweetheart.
performing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I don't think we have, our dance team is led by Anthony Velasquez, and he was just in the Lady Gaga Abracadabra video, and he's actually doing, his dance company is going to be performing Lady Gaga's Abracadabra in the show.
Oh
So,
my God, how
yeah.
That's so
exciting.
cool.
it's going to be pretty cool.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
Well,
Can't wait.
Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Dazzling Divas at the Parker stage on June 21st and your chance to win a world-class travel experience to Machu Picchu. That is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Next up, let's welcome anchor Vaughn Biggs. He's a community outreach coordinator at Holy Cross Health, a vice chair of the Ryan White Part 8 Planning Council, and a founding board member of TransDad. He also was in this incredible pageant over the weekend where he ran for Mr. Stonewall, and I can't tell you how proud I am
thank
for
you.
you to have been part of that incredible pageant. So congratulations for
Thank
that,
you.
Vaughn. So he's of course he's also a board member of TransEd. I love you, Francesca. So Vaughn, Mr. Tristan to come as Stonewall Pride Parade Grand Marshal on June 14th. Tell me what's happening out. Tell me.
That's right, Faye. On June 14th, entrepreneur and LGBTQ advocate Tristan Shoecraft will serve as Grand Marshal for the 2025 Stonewall Pride Parade. Best known as the founder of MISTR, a leading telemedicine platform for HIV prevention, Tristan brings star power and business innovation to the celebration. The parade will take place in Wilton Manors, drawing thousands of support of Pride and Progress. Tristan, dubbed the CEO of Everything Gay, is known for his leadership in healthcare, hospitality, and queer nightlife. Shoecraft is well known as the owner of the world's most iconic gay bar, The Abbey, in West Hollywood. He is also the owner of Tryst Hotels that launched earlier this year in PV, and soon San Juan and Fire Island. All attendees to Stonewall Pride Parade can expect vibrant floats, music, and a joyful celebration of identity and resilience led by this visionary figure. More information on stonewallpride.lgbt. You know, I think it's great to have icons, you know, come that has represented the community, and the idea of having them there and what he's done with MISTR as far as the prevention method that they brought to the community. It's a great resource for people who, you know, can do it online via telemedicine. They don't have to worry about finding a doctor or somewhere to go to. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun having him here. Having two Grand Marshals actually here is going to be
right.
exciting.
Yeah.
You know, I think
From different coasts.
exactly. So I'm excited. I can't wait for that.
Well, I mean, and MISTR's business model, I had no idea they had anything to do with AIDS prevention. I thought it was a bunch of hot guys dressed in blue and white.
Right. That too.
I had no idea at all.
All the
I was like,
boys-
all the MISTR
all the
boys
boys
were
we
here.
know. All the
I
boys
was
we know.
I had no idea. So again, but that's why it's successful, right?
They do chapstick.
Oh,
Yeah,
and you
right.
love that.
Yes,
And you
both of
both
you.
have them. Okay, but that just tells you how
Swag
great their
bag.
marketing
We
is. That
do,
two
we
of the
do
boys
have-
at the table just randomly had them.
Yeah, you know, and working in HIV prevention as well. You know, Vaughn and I work in the same space, and Tristan as well. And I had the pleasure of meeting him at the Stonewall gala that
Yes,
we were at, and
yes.
Tristan was there with all of his boys, and it was fun. It was a great evening. He's a great guy, huge
Mm-hmm. He's so
advocate.
pretty, too.
Yeah, he's super handsome, huge advocate for the community, and I really applaud, especially working in the HIV space, what Tristan has done for HIV prevention.
Mm-hmm.
So look forward to seeing him as Grand Marshal.
Yeah, and I love what he did with the Tris hotels. Like you were saying, Puerto Vallarta, Puerto Rico, Fire Island, these are all gay places that we love to go to. And the Trist opening was so different because he had so many influencers. It was all over social media. He had Jennifer Coolidge there. He had Laverne Cox. He had every like LGBTQ plus icon or someone that you follow at his grand
It was
opening.
White Lotus all over.
It really was. But I mean, that's how you got they got the buzz going, you know? I was like,
it's brilliant branding, even the
Yes.
name, Tristan. I mean, it's just so great.
And that's why he's the CEO of Everything Gay.
I mean, there you go.
And now it's really good visibility here too, because now it's opening doors for, other LGBTQ plus notables and icons and stuff to possibly come and also, be the Grand Marshal. So, I'm liking to seeing a lot of like LA and New York people coming down and celebrating with us, names at least, so it's important.
Yeah, and big shout out going out to all the organizers of Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival happening out, hotspots happening out, because I mean, again, they thought about who they were going to put in this very important year, right? Like what kind of representation are we going to put as Grand Marshals, right? It's, no offense to anybody in the past, but I'm saying, these two figures are like just so important when it comes to history and the future.
Yeah.
Both as incredible Grand Marshals. So we really look forward to it. And Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at Stonewall Pride when Mr. Tristan comes as Grand Marshal on June 14th. And that is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
And of course, let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, FayWhat. She is a legendary events host, a television and radio personality, and the host of Hotspot's Happening Out's The FayWhat Show. Faye, Lesbians take center stage at Katoomba Theater Project in Spy for Spy. The show will be at Empire Stage from July 10th through August 3rd. Tell me, what's happening out?
Yes, hell to the yeah. Katoomba Theater Project will return to the stage this summer with the East Coast premiere of Spy for Spy, a witty and heartfelt lesbian love story by Kieran Barry. Directed by Katoomba's artistic director and founder, Kim Ellie, the production will run from July 12th to August 3rd at Empire Stage in Fort Lauderdale. The preview will be on July 10th. Starring Abby Frick as Molly and Taylor Lynn Dawson as Sarah, this playful and emotionally rich comedy explores love through 6 scenes and 7 kisses, reshuffled each night. Audience members will randomly select songs to determine the play's sequence, making each performance a fresh take on the same moving story. Shows will run Fridays and Saturdays at 8 p.m., Sundays at 5, and select Thursdays also. Tickets are $40, with preview tickets at $30 at KatoombaTheaterProject.org. I'm so excited about this, and you had me at 7 kisses, okay? All right.
Not lesbian?
Oh, damn, you're right. You had me at lesbian and then 7 kisses, right? Like, as a kid, my favorite books were the ones that like you would be able to guide the story, right? So if Tom goes to the store, you go to page 7. If Tom punches out his neighbor, you go to page 11, And I love that because you were able kind of to move the story around and be with the same book and have different outcomes, depending on what day it was or how you were feeling. Right. So I love this concept. Like, it's so fresh. It's so new. I like it. And it keeps it, I mean, fresh, I think, is the ideal word
and
for
fresh for the performers, because, doing the same show over and over, I mean, I did, you're a professional, you do it.
It's true.
But it makes it really fresh and exciting for the performers. because, and that's going to add to some kind of improv moments, I'm sure.
Right.
It reminds me of when I was in college and I did a musical theater production of The Mystery of Edwin Drood, where the ending is always changed.
Right.
You get to pick the killer, the hero and stuff. So you had, as the actor or as the musical person, you had to learn like your song, but you didn't know if you were going to go on because the audience votes for you.
Yeah.
And as the performer, it's like you're like anticipating, am I going to go on? Am I going to go on? And if you don't know your stuff that night, it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, this interactive stuff is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love it. It's like it's like fresh.
Yeah,
right?
the immersive theater experience is a lot of fun because the audience gets to be involved. Like they say, you get to pick the storyline, the music. So I can't wait to see it. It's definitely something I would love to see.
Yes, and it's going to sell out. Hello, lesbians,
Yes.
7 kisses. That's
I'm there for it.
Cal, close us out, baby.
Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at Spy for Spy by Katoomba Theater Project from July 10th through August 3rd. That is the big LGBTQ story for today. There's no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm FayWhat, and let's queer up gay culture. WorldPride DC only meets 33% of projected attendance and revenue, mostly over concerns of fear. WorldPride in Washington finished last night in the shadow of the Capitol and the White House. But largely, the news promised by WorldPride organizers had disappointing results for attendance and revenues. WorldPride may not even end up to be the largest LGBTQ event in America in 2025. BBC reports on the numbers for WorldPride saying, quote, the U.S. Capitol won the bid to host WorldPride years before Trump's re-election. In January, the event organizers had projected that the celebration, which coincides with the 50th anniversary of Washington's first Pride March, would attract 3 million visitors and contribute nearly $800 million to the local economy. But their expectations have now dropped to about a third of their previous estimates, end quote. Destination DC, the official tourism organization for the city, reports that overall occupancy over the weekend in Washington, D.C. was down 3% compared to the same weekend in 2024. This means that the visibility of Pride may not have drawn the expected huge international visitors. The downturn of the entire city may suggest concerns related to WorldPride may have kept even more tourists away. Washington's mayor, Muriel Bowser, discussed the concerns of the weekend when she acknowledged the visitors, saying, quote, feel scared that an environment is developing that is anti-LGBTQ, but we can't live in fear. We have to live our lives and be as best prepared as we can, end quote. Kelly Lasco, the owner of Her Diner in DuPont Circle, one of DC's most vibrant LGBTQ neighborhoods, echoed this sentiment, saying, quote, I feel like normally with Pride, we are ready for the celebration. And obviously the current administration has put a big damper on that, end quote. Many stories developed over the weekend. On a brighter note, Broadway and Hollywood star Cynthia Erivo headlined the celebration with power and pride. The festivities kicked off with a jaw-dropping sight, a rainbow flag as long as 3 football fields, carried by 500 proud voices and supporters from the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, D.C. Behind them, buses rolled by, draped in trans, bi, and ace flags, with cheers ringing through the streets. Erivo lit up the night by singing Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody, calling back to the lives lost in the Pulse nightclub shooting. As Erivo gave a quick shout out to her wicked hits, the crowd erupted in joy. One of the headlines at the WorldPride DC was RuPaul. As one YouTube user said, RuPaul was acting a fool plus serving Gardner at WorldPride Music Festival, clad in full-on Gardner fantasy, sun hat, shades, and all. RuPaul hit the decks and had the crowd gagging. Fans couldn't get enough, end quote. Another memorable moment at WorldPride, Jennifer Lopez premiered I'm Free, an LGBTQ anthem with the lyric Free to Love Whoever I Please. Backed by the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, she also covered George Michael's Freedom on the White House lawn, saluting queer fans and spotlighting freedom through song, not stardom. Singer-songwriter and actor Renee Rapp laughed and blew kisses from a pickup draped in a transgender flag, while Laverne Cox waved from a convertible. The 2 Grand Marshals alongside Deacon McCubbin led a dazzling DC Pride parade. Outside the National City, Christian Church, rainbow flags and balloons greeted hundreds. Asian American and Pacific Islander groups, Mayor Muriel Bowser and DC Police joined the march, turning the streets into a bold, joyful celebration of queer love. A dark note occurred, unfortunately, near the end of WorldPride's parade in Washington, D.C. on Saturday as people fled DuPont Circle following violent incidents. Local elected official Vincent Slatt told The Advocate there was both a shooting and a stabbing near the festivities. At 7:02 p.m., 2 minors were hospitalized after a stabbing during a fight between juvenile groups in DuPont Circle Park. Later at 7:52, a man was shot in the foot nearby. He was transported conscious and breathing. Police have not confirmed whether the violence was linked to Pride or if the victims had attended the celebration. Despite recent attacks on queer rights, the energy in D.C. said one thing loud and clear: we're not going anywhere. WorldPride D.C. it deserved to soar, but instead, unfortunately, it limped. The performers were electric, the flags were flying, and Cynthia Erivo gave us church and gave us pulse all in one note. But let's be real. Fear loomed. The drop in turnout wasn't about lack of pride. It was about safety. When people don't feel protected in the capital of the so-called free world, that's not just a bad look for WorldPride, but that's a warning shot for all of us. We need joy and justice in our lives. And unfortunately, this had to play out how it played out. What do you boys think?
I mean, the program itself was stellar. I mean, look at the artists that came in: Cynthia Erivo, the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, D.C. We'll definitely get in there and perform, especially during the Pride months when it's most necessary. But, the one thing that was missing from this, obviously, is a better president. And I think that was what was anticipating from all of this.
That's
it was like,
statement.
I think, when they chose Washington, D.C., I think we were being hopeful and, on a better outcome. But I attended the one, the 50th anniversary in New York about 5 years ago and stuff, and it was electrifying. It was so mass. So, I understand people's fears and not wanting to, be cautious and stay home. But, it's more important than ever to really get out. And I'm hoping that people, especially in South Florida this weekend, will definitely come out for all the Pride celebrations.
Yeah, but what a big hit. Like 3% under last year at the same time. Kal?
And they've been advertising this for years. I know people who've been talking about DC Pride, going on years and years, and we've even talked about
we were thinking of going during Kamala's run. We were like, okay, we're gonna go
at some point, and it's just it comes to a time and it's like, okay, maybe it's not the best choice, to be able to go, and it's sad to think that way because, as Americans, as first generation American myself, I love everything about this country, and to be able to be not only openly gay, but also first generation, Muslim American, to be able to go to Pride in my country's national capital, that would have been amazing. But I feel like because, Trump is completely against us. I think the other night you did a story here on Queer News Tonight that Trump replaced Pride Month with Title IX month.
Title IX month.
And I'm like, how ridiculous is that? And it's like, so he's not a fan of the LGBT community.
Well, you can just tell that by looking at the hair and the makeup.
But how about the folks internationally that love to go to prides everywhere?
Too many people are afraid to travel.
Well, and especially our trans siblings. Those are the folks that I'm worried about, right? If there's a travel ban, if people are telling you don't come to the U.S. because you might get, sent to El Salvador.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to want to come here.
Right.
Yeah, I heard an interview with Laverne Cox saying, if I were coming from out of the country, I would not come here.
She said that.
She said it verbatim. Yeah. I would not come here. I would not
take the chance. Yeah.
No, not worth the chance. Yeah. And and there are trans people whose identification is now misrepresenting them completely, 100%. So how can you travel when you don't even have proper documentation and ID?
Yeah.
It's also upsetting that we're at this stage. Yeah. No pun intended. But Cynthia Erivo, yes. I mean, I've just seen the clips of her turn it out. And then, she did, the next day, she was the host of the Tony Awards in New York and turned out even more The Voice. She's spectacular. No, I'm such a Erivo fan. But I just wanted to bring that in, that moment that she was also the next day doing the Tony Awards.
No, and incredible. I mean, and think about, like Edward was saying, the people that were invited, you know what I mean? J-Lo, Troye Sivan, Cynthia Erivo, Vincent, who I, was with yesterday at the Arch Center, Ray. I mean, so many incredible, Tracy Young. There were so many incredible people that were invited to be a part of this, And let me just say to all the folks who did show up, all the people who organized this, you guys are activists, okay? You went out there and you protested and you showed up. And I give you big love for that because, I couldn't. You know what I mean? Like, and that sucks that I'm scared. You know what I mean? I passed. I'm not trans. And yet I still was like, if my trans siblings can't go, I don't want to go.
Right.
But we did have people from, our community here that were there.
There were a lot of
Awesome
people.
to see, which
Yeah.
is great. And, we've seen the numbers dropping in Pride. I think when they say 33%, how much of that was anticipated international travel versus domestic, because
agree.
I would be curious to see that large percentage due to the international travel ban.
I wonder if they're able to.
I think it would be both, because
Right.
when you think about it, now when you think of DC, at least for me, when I think of DC, I think of Trump. You know what I mean? When I think of the White House, I think of Trump. When I think of the Capitol, I think of Trump. So that just means that domestically, people would be like, I don't want to go there either.
Yeah. And not
It would have been different if it would have been Kamala. We all would have been there half naked right there on the lawn.
And not many people talk about the economic impact of these events.
Right.
This event would have brought $800 million to DC. That's hotels, that's food, that's spending in Uber, that's like, you go to these events, you spend money. Just like with Stonewall Pride and Wilton Manors, people are going to eat, they're going to drink, they have to Uber here, they're going to spend money, and that's the economic impact that these events have on our cities. And people need to start to realize that. These events are important, not only for our community and society, but the economic impact as well.
Yeah, 100%. And that is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's take a deep dive into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Kal Gajraj, and let's queer up the worldview. Air Canada changes their brand logo, then launches first ever LGBTQ flight crew for Pride. In a historic celebration of Pride Month, Air Canada has taken inclusivity to new heights, literally. The airline launched its first ever flight staffed entirely by a queer crew, marking a groundbreaking moment in Canadian aviation. The flight, proudly shared on Air Canada's social media, was described as, quote, our first all 2SLGBTQIA+ flight was a heartfelt celebration reflecting our unwavering commitment to inclusivity and equality in the air and on the ground, end quote. For context, the 2S is the acronym that stands for Two-Spirit, an identity held by some Indigenous North Americans who occupy a unique traditional third gender role in their communities. In the video, airline captain Maciej shared, quote, it was a bit of a range of emotions coming here and getting dressed for this flight, end quote. The historic flight began with the pilot playfully welcoming passengers with RuPaul's famous line, Shantae, you all stay. For U.S. LGBTQ viewers, this landmark moment in Canada's skies is more than a celebration. It's a powerful reminder of what inclusive visibility can look like when backed by corporate action. I love this story. Spent my entire career working in marketing and have worked for some incredible brands, and having the pleasure now to work at Can Community Health that serves so much of the LGBTQ community. We actually came out with a music video for Pride Month with Be Brave.
It was
it's featuring Sarah Bareilles, song Brave, but sang by Alexander Zenos, which is absolutely incredible. So
watch it on YouTube.
But a lot of companies have backed off from not only their DEI, but their Pride Month activations and sponsorships. I'm really fortunate at Can that we haven't done that. We're a huge supporter of the LGBTQ plus community. We have dozens of events that we are sponsoring this month, but not only Pride Month, but also for Juneteenth as well, because we can't forget that takes place in June.
Yep.
But I also have to give a shout out to our professional sports teams. So the NFL and the MLB and the NBA all had a massive Pride push where they all had Pride posts on June 1st across the country. And it was because, we all love basketball. We all love baseball. We all love football, so it's our fans, come from everywhere. And it was really nice to see that perspective where LGBT isn't necessarily represented, but they spoke up for all of us.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, Air Canada said, fasten your seatbelts, homos, because queer excellence is cleared for takeoff. Like this is.
Were you a flight attendant in your last life?
No, but my friend is, so I just love the verbiage. I love verbiage, I mean, aside
good. That was good. That was good.
Right?
That was good.
Aside from being super, super cool, right? This is like such an incredible way to be an ally. This is what allyship is all about,
Right.
Whoever is up there making these decisions, thank you, know?
They're gay. They're gay, first
You
of
know
all.
they're gay, and it's Canada. All the bad things I've ever said about Canada, I'm taking back. All of it. You know, like I wish somebody would do something like this here. You know what I mean? Like, why? You know, I had seen a post maybe last year where it was the first time that they had like an all-black crew on like a Delta Airlines thing, and I thought that was incredible. And I was like, how come it's the first time? You know? So for this, I feel the same way. Like, what a wonderful way to put a bunch of incredible humans together and say, hey, we're going to be the first all LGBTQ flight crew. Let's do this, you know? And then adding the little spin of RuPaul and everything. I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Canada's always been, you know, a home for gays. They've had is it the Rainbow Railroad? I believe that for people that wanted to escape up to Canada that were gay, and so they've always accepted, you know, up there. So it's amazing. And then we hear about what Trump wants to do across the border. You know, it's like, oh, that's scary.
That's true. I forgot a bunch of people had left to go to Canada. Like,
Right.
COVID and all that. People were like, F this. I'm leaving the U.S. I'm going to Canada.
Yes. So
You know?
absolutely. So it's great to see that. I wish we had our corporations here that could do the same.
Yeah.
But it's kind of sad. I know some of us have said this before. Pride isn't just June. It should be every day of the year.
Yeah.
And, you know, we need corporations that can stand and do that 365 days a year.
Yeah.
Amen. Thank you, Vaughn. And that is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ plus story for today. I'm Dale Stein, and let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Skimpy men's bathing suits were the star of Miami Swim Week. If you thought last year's swimmer was bold, think again. The skimpiest men's bathing suits were the undisputed stars of Miami Swim Week 2025. The annual swimsuit fashion extravaganza, produced by queer sartorial powerhouse Eric Rossetti's Art Hearts Fashion, turned up the heat yet again, showcasing barely there briefs, dazzling prints, and body-hugging cuts that left little to the imagination. Trend-setting labels from around the world, including Carioca, Coyote Jocks, Mr. Triple X, Joseph Oren, Idol Jose, David Tupaz, Poppy Swim, Love for Upcycling, and Henry Costa brought their fiercest and most flamboyant designs to the catwalk. For LGBTQ plus viewers planning a summer escape to P-Town, Fire Island, Rehoboth, or Mykonos, or wherever your hot gay summer takes you, these looks are pure inspiration. Whether you're into neon, mesh, or micro cuts, there's something for every taste and torso. Well, a few decades ago, probably, I would have been wearing all of these. Currently, I do not, but I don't mind seeing them. I think it's a great light. Miami Fashion Week also is such a thing. It's such a big brouhaha. I mean, Miami Fashion Week is all abuzz just because it's like the going out, the parties after, the doing.
Yeah.
Because that's how, Miami is so that.
Yeah, like Basel, not being about art, being about the parties.
The parties,
right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, this is exactly what I needed to hear, especially since Andrew Christian retired over the weekend.
Right?
I was like,
what's happening?
What do you mean?
I think it's a big deal.
I was like so affected by that. So when we got this story, I was like, okay, there's other brands, right? I was like, take a breath, Andrew Christian, we love you, okay? Whatever you do, we'll go support, But like one of the fashion designers is someone that we know, Dale, Love for Upcycling are the people who clothed me for that picture on Brickell that you took.
Of course, yeah.
So how amazing, and I loved that, like Miami Swim Week, I don't know when it started, but back in the day it was mainly it was just women, for the most part, and that was my favorite. But, I enjoy seeing my gay boys, so I love that it's elevated now to the point where it's a lot, and it's also like, it's body conscious. It's not just all thin, skinny rails.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a lot of inclusivity and a lot of upcycling and a lot of recycled stuff and very minimal clothing in certain areas too, which I really appreciated, So we live for this stuff. This is why we live in Florida, folks.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Like,
basically year round.
And it gives visibility to our local designers too.
And
So,
exposure.
And exposure, yes. So
Literally.
it really is. It's a wonderful thing to get here in Florida.
Yeah.
I remember, Faye, you and I went to Fort Lauderdale Fashion Week.
We did.
A few years ago. And
Yeah.
you go to these fashion shows and we always make fun of the people who are sitting there wearing sunglasses. Well, I finally realized why people wear sunglasses at fashion shows. It is so bright.
Right.
Faye and I we're sitting there
We're like-
and in the front row, and I'm like, we couldn't see anything. And everyone's there just calm, cool, and collected in their sunglasses, and I'm like,
who are those people squinting?
right. And we were there, front row, Fort Lauderdale Fashion Week,
Front row.
squinting.
Squinting,
So we need a do-over.
But now we know.
We need a do-over, yeah.
Yeah, but I have to say, we talk about the bathing suits, and one of the lines that you talked about was leaving little to the imagination, but sometimes it's okay to have an imagination. I mean, I like the fact that, the big boys are represented all, on there, but at the same time, it's like, does it have to be that skimpy that there's no imagination left? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, again, that would be a three-piece suit, Vaughn. I mean, it's a bathing suit.
But you've
You wanna
already
start
seen
putting
that.
tops on
You've
bathing
already
suits for boys?
seen, everything. So there's nothing left to imagine.
Well, is it a grower or a shower? You never know.
A grower or a shower. Wow. Well, that is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ plus story for today. I'm Otto Zielke, and let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Naples Pride changes after last-minute court ruling and pressure from DeSantis. In a dramatic turn, just one day before Naples' 8th annual Pride Fest on Saturday, a federal appeals court forced a major change for the weekend's programming. A scheduled outdoor drag performance, previously greenlit by a federal judge, was ordered indoors after the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit issued a last-minute decision late Friday. The panel stated that an earlier injunction allowing the city of Naples to enforce restrictions to limit drag performances to adults only and require them to be held indoors. The drag show was moved to the North Center near Cambier Park. The city maintains that its decision was about safety, not content, and the court's majority agreed. However, one judge dissented, arguing that the decision violates First Amendment rights. The festival still offered live music, family programming, and vendors in Cambier Park. Naples Pride Board member Calhan Soldavini affirmed, quote, "Today is all about preparations, and we're really excited for this year's Naples Pride Fest because no matter how loud fear or the noise gets, the heart of the event hasn't changed since we started in 2017. And it's still about love, visibility, joy, and showing up for one another. Despite legal hurdles and opposition, Naples Pride Fest continued through Sunday, celebrating LGBTQ plus resilience in the face of ongoing political pressure." Well, I'm glad that, they were able to go through this and just, have a celebration. It really sucks at the 11th hour to have an injunction and just kind of like foul up plans like that. Yeah. But, we're resilient. Our community is resilient. I'm so happy to see Naples on the rise of LGBTQ+. Mm-hmm. We have a small little chorus out there too. So we've always been kind of checking in with them too. And so in solidarity, we're hoping that maybe we can, get over there and, work with them a little bit too, because their voices really need to be heard. Yeah. And, starting in 2017, with Pride during the Trump era at that point too. So
he won.
Yeah. So it shows the resilience. It's like they pushed through that, and you know what? They're just going to keep pushing and growing. So
from the beginning,
yeah,
they've been fighting tooth and nail. Like so many people would have quit by now, right. Folks, and been like, you know what? Let's go help Stonewall, right? Let's go help the West Palm. Let's go help someone that's near us. And instead, they were like, you know what? I got a finger for you. Guess which one?
Right.
I mean, they are the voices of resilience. I give it up to everybody from Naples Pride. William Haas, the ex-chair of the Bears of South Florida, sits at this table all the time, and what they had to fight for, when people pulled out their money, they were like, screw you. Miss Bouvier was like, what? I'm gonna start singing songs for money online to get money for Naples Pride. They raised so much money to make this happen. They didn't stop them. Yeah, come in with a court injunction the day before. We don't give an F. We're still gonna have what Pride means. We're still gonna have the full weekend of joy and resilience, and they brought it.
Right. And, last minute my ass, because nothing happens in city government that fast.
On Friday night.
On Friday on a Friday night, you know, we know government employees. They work their hours and they're out. You know, but it was very, you know, intentional about what they did, and it's sad that they allocate resources and time to stuff like this. I mean, we know who lives in Naples. You know, our Medicare fraud recipient of the years. You know, our
Rick
Senator
Scott's up there. Hi, Rick Scott.
Yeah, he lives in Naples. You know, so he probably had something to do with it. But you know, it's just very sad.
And then in alignment with this story, you know, this is one of the things that's happening as a result of this administration's behavior and laws and what all the things they're trying to do, is that prides are springing up in smaller places, even like more rural places.
Yeah.
People, you know, claiming their own empowerment and being proud in smaller spaces. But kudos to them for really. But you know, we get tired of being resilient after a while. I mean, I've been resilient for decades. Decades, bitch.
That's why we have to inspire the younger LGBTQ plus, because, you know, we've been, you know, somebody like me has been carrying the load for, you know, 25, 30 years now at this point. So, yeah, you know, you got to sit there and talk with young people and explain to them these type of things and how these grassroots prides get started and how they have to keep going. And we're seeing them, like you said, pop up all over Florida. We were just up in Treasure Coast, of course.
Oakland Park had one the other day.
Oakland Park itself. So you know what? You
I'm hearing about ones of places I've never even heard of.
And it was very family friendly.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I think what's interesting is they have these pride events and all this is going on in Florida where they're trying to curtail them or slow them. But what they're really hurting is the economy as well, because the money that comes into those cities for prides. I mean, Florida's already seen that from the lack of Canadians that are coming from this last season.
Huge.
I mean,
and the cruise line industry
of money impact that has made on our state, and they're still pushing to stop things happening in communities. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's going to be karma for them. They're not going to have the money they think they had.
Yeah. Well, Naples Pride, we love you.
Yes.
Okay, and we'll see you in 2026 for sure. And that is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Von Biggs, and let's queer up the USA voice. Nancy Pelosi honors those lost to AIDS at the DC Gay Men's Chorus WorldPride concert. During WorldPride, the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, D.C., in partnership with St. Thomas's Parish and the National AIDS Memorial, unveiled a deeply personal display of the AIDS Memorial Quilt. This exhibit includes panels honoring chorus members who died during the height of the AIDS epidemic in the 1980s and 90s. These were not just names on a cloth. Many of the quilt panels were sewn decades ago by grieving loved ones. One of them, the first ever made by and for the chorus members, held a special significance. The idea for the exhibit was sparked earlier this year after the chorus members spoke to a high school class reading Angels in America. The students had no real sense of the fear and loss that marked that era. The conversation turned into a mission. Chorus members spent months digging through the National AIDS Memorial Archives, confirming 33 individual panels honoring their own. Some names they remembered personally. Friday night's opening of this historic initiative drew a very special guest. House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. She praised the quilt's unifying power and the queer community's role in demanding change. Pelosi told the crowd, quote, "When I made my first speech in Congress about HIV/AIDS, people said, 'Why would you talk about that? Why would you lead with that?' I said, 'Because that's why I came here. I came here to fight.' But the real miracle was the outside mobilization of the LGBTQ plus community who refused to be silent. That's what made the difference. That's what changed the world," end quote. The exhibit was open through Sunday. You know, as someone living with HIV, this exhibit is more than just a tribute. It's a mirror reflecting the resilience, love, and loss that shaped our community. The AIDS Memorial Quilt is not just fabric. It's a living archive of voices that refuse to be forgotten. And it's just so important because we keep talking about our stories and our history, and that we need to continue to bring that forward.
Yeah, and the Gay Men's Chorus didn't just like remember these 33 choir members that they lost. They brought it to life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what about. A quilt's just a quilt without the stories behind it.
And we've been telling these stories since it began. With San Francisco, the Gay Men's Chorus out there in 1981, I think was the first one that came out of this from the AIDS epidemic.
Wow.
And it was our way of giving a voice to people's silence, about this. So, and then you saw it in New York and all these different chapters. And in fact, South Florida, we've had LGBTQ plus choruses since the 80s itself. Our organization has been in operation for 15 years. So we don't have direct, people that might have been so, affected.
Yeah.
But, through the history, and we're blessed to still have Dr. Gary Keating here in the community too, who started the gay choral movement back in the 80s too. So he would tell me about people that have passed, and we still honor our members that do pass, with like a memorial that we create ourselves. So, these quilts and these type of things, this is where we feel like our voices can be lended in these type of things. So, it's been a privilege,
Right.
to tell these stories.
And the AIDS quilt, of course, now, I think the last time it was shown in full was 96. I saw it in 1993. Yes, bitches, I'm that old. I was at the March on Washington, the LGBTQ, I think we called it Gay Lesbian March. I don't know what we called it. The March, I think we just called it the March on Washington in 1993. About 1 million of us were there. And
Amazing.
But the quilt was shown in its entirety on the Grand Lawn. And it was a life-altering experience to be there, to see it, to just because this, it wasn't the party atmosphere, even for the parade in '93. It was very much a protest, and then of course, then going to the quilt was a totally sacred, somber experience. It was silent, and it was filled with people looking and reading and it was quiet because everybody was respecting the awesomeness of it all. So anyway, I just got kind of lost in my own moment there.
I can only imagine.
So now, of course, to find 33 specific panels, that requires some major research, number one, and how beautiful to bring that to life.
I love it. Well, that is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Those are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. These anchors represent the best of our LGBTQ community.
If our rainbow family is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines.
We need your support. If our community is to grow and then thrive, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, FayWhat, and on behalf of these LGBTQ reporters, the incredible anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Dr. Kal Gajraj, Dale Stein, Edward Otto Zielke, and my boy Von Biggs. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. to our LGBTQ plus world. We hope that you will join us by embracing love, generosity, bravery, by being transformative, and, of course, being queer. Good night.
Good night.